Hello, everybody, and welcome to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. I am your host, Bill, and, for the second week in a row, I am on my own. Fro is still under the weather. Hopefully, he will be with us next week. This week on the show, going to be reviewing AEW All Out and talk about some of the controversies that took place during the pay-per-view and give my thoughts on those controversies. Plus, going to talk about New Japan's G1 Climax tournament. They have announced the field of 20 for this year. It actually is going to start next week. So I'll give you guys a preview of who's in each block. And just got to get into other wrestling-related news. And let's dive into these wrestling-related news. And I'm going to start off with Major League Wrestling. Now, last week on the show, I talked about how, they're getting ready to restart. They're calling it the restart. And, they got all these different streaming services that they're going to have available up. And they made a big announcement earlier this week, which I'd like to read the press release, and that is that Major League Wrestling will no longer be airing on Saturday nights. Remember, I said last week that beIN Sports, the channel that they were originally on for a while, are not going to get the new episodes right away. As a matter of fact, it is going to be on Fubo Sports Network, and here is the official press release. Major League Wrestling is moving nights. Starting next week, fans can tune in to Fubo Sports Network Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern to watch the latest Major League action with a replay at 10. Moving to a weeknight and in prime time was one of our goals with the restart, said Court Bauer. Fubo Sports offers us two great windows to catch the realest wrestling in the sport while placing us on over 75 million screens. Fubo Sports is a live, free-to-consumer TV network featuring sports stories on and off the field. Available on over 75 million devices, consumers can stream Fubo Sports Network for free on Pluto TV, LG Channel, Samsung TV Plus, the Roku Channel, Vizio Channels, Plex, and Xumo, as well as through Fubo TV subscription service and on FuboSportsNetwork.com. Fubo Sports Network features original programming, live sports, and programming from partners including MLW, USA Today, FanDuel, The Players Tribune, Stadium, Vision, Campus Lore, and many more. So we're going to take a look at FuboSportsNetwork.com. If you want to look it up, it is FUBO, FuboSportsNetwork.com. And it looks like it is free, like they said. Other shows they have include No Chill with Gilbert Arenas. Oh boy, that's a smart idea to have him with a show. The Cooligans, Drinks with Binks, and Call It a Night with Julie Stewart-Binks. So she has two shows of her own. It is very fascinating. So yeah, it is on a lot of devices. I might put it on my Roku, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I think this is a good move because Wednesday at 7 is not going to really hurt them in any way. They, because AEW Dynamite normally airs at 8 o'clock. And of course I'll talk about if they are or not airing this week. That is yet to be decided. But no, I'm really looking forward to, this new opportunity for Major League Wrestling. They've been putting out a lot of good content as of late, and I'm really looking forward to see how things go. I think they're going to be very, very interesting there. Ring of Honor is going to start this weekend with brand new episodes. Start the Pure Wrestling title tournament. It's going to be 16 men in all. Should be very, very interesting to see how everything goes there. So I'll probably check. I have it set to record tonight, so I'm probably going to watch it this weekend, or if not this weekend, early next week, just to see how they are. They haven't had a show in close to 7 months, so I think it's a good opportunity to check them out. Speaking of checking out, let's check out the G1 Climax roster. New Japan's annual tournament begins next Saturday, September the 19th, and it is... Now I will say that this was the original planned time of this tournament to start because of the Summer Olympics that were going to be in Tokyo. Of course, that got pushed back to next year. So the G1 Climax, amazingly, through all of this, was never affected in any way, shape, or form. Amazingly. And the roster that they have this year is a pretty loaded roster. Some names may surprise you, but others might not. And I think the ones that will surprise you is because, well, they've happened to be in quarantine for the last couple of weeks. So let's take a look at the competitors that are in this year's G1 Climax tournament. And it starts with the A block, and the first name is the defending champion of the G1 Climax, Kota Ibushi. He will look to repeat this year. Winning the tournament. Also going to have Jeff Cobb in Block A. Kazuchika Okada, the two-time winner, is going to be in it. Tomohiro Ishii is in it. Will Ospreay, Shingo Takagi, Minoru Suzuki making his first appearance in 2 years in the tournament. Taichi, Jay White, and Yujiro Takahashi making his first appearance in 5 years makes up Block A. Meanwhile, in Block B, it is Hiroshi Tanahashi, the 3-time winner of the tournament, starting out Block B. Also with Juice Robinson, Hiroki Goto, the 2008 winner of the tournament, Toru Yano, Yoshihashi, his first tournament appearance in 2 years, Tetsuya Naito, the current IWGP Intercontinental and Heavyweight Champion, 2-time champion of the tournament as well, Sanada, Zack Sabre Jr., Kenta, and Evil make up the roster for this year's G1 Climax tournament. Of course, each block is an interesting block. I think the A block is going to be a little bit more interesting because you have Cobb and Ishii, you have Shingo and Okada, which should be very, very good. Ospreay and Ibushi, that's going to be an amazing match right there. You just have so many, possibilities, so many matchups that are going to happen in the tournament because they all have to face each other at least once, so it looks very good. But let's not take away from the B block, because the B block is a good-looking group there, too. You have the current heavyweight champion in Naito and Tanahashi, the 3-time winner of the tournament, leading the way. You also have Toru Yano. You have Yoshihashi, who just won his first title recently in New Japan. Sanada is always a dark horse to win the group. It looks very, very fascinating, and I do believe we have the first 2 days of matches announced. And let's take a look at them, folks. So this is what I'm going to read to you guys. The opening matches for the A block next Saturday, September the 19th. So it'll be Will Ospreay against Yujiro Takahashi, Jeff Cobb against Taichi, Tomohiro Ishii against Minoru Suzuki, Shingo Takagi against Jay White, and Kazuchika Okada against Kota Ibushi. That is the day one start for the A block. For the B block, you have Juice Robinson against Yoshihashi, Toru Yano against Sanada, Hiroki Goto against Kenta, Zack Sabre Jr. facing Evil, and Hiroshi Tanahashi facing Tetsuya Naito. That is a good way to start off your Block B. And then what I like to do is look at the final day lineups for each block. So I'm going to go through that. Kota Ibushi will face Taichi. This is Block A, by the way. Ibushi against Taichi. Jeff Cobb against Yujiro Takahashi. Kazuchika Okada against Will Ospreay. Tomohiro Ishii against Jay White. And Shingo Takagi against Minoru Suzuki. Takagi and Suzuki should be really good because they had an unbelievable match just recently. Okada and Ospreay should be really good. Ibushi and Taichi, that could be overlooked. I think that one could be a good match there. And then the final day in the B block has Hiroshi Tanahashi against Zack Sabre Jr. They have quite a history there. Juice Robinson against Hiroki Goto. Toru Yano against Yoshihashi. Tetsuya Naito against Kenta. And Sanada against Evil. Those are going to be the final matches in Block B. Of course, the tournament starts September the 19th, and it goes all the way to October the 18th, where the finals of the tournament will take place, and the winner will be main eventing the biggest show of the year for New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom, this January. A good-looking field, some very good matches, some good-looking matches here. Cannot wait to see how this tournament plays out this year. So, good luck to all 20 of them in the G1 Climax. And of course, this show will keep you updated on the standings as the weeks go by. Alright, well, if you haven't figured out by now, you haven't been able to get to really any wrestling shows unless they're small independent shows. AEW has announced yesterday rescheduling of 4 upcoming events. So if you have tickets for these 4 shows, you may want to write them down on the new date. St. Louis, which was originally going to be October the 7th, has now been rescheduled for June the 23rd. Oh, great. That would have been my grandmother's 110th birthday, had she lived that long. Milwaukee, which was October 28th, has been rescheduled for July the 14th. Houston, which would have been November the 4th, has been moved to June the 30th. And Rochester, New York, which was originally scheduled for November 11th, has been rescheduled for June the 16th. All of those dates are 2021. So if you had tickets for any of those 4 shows, write the new dates down. Hopefully, people will be able to get back to seeing live shows in the near future. Well, Hell in a Cell was originally scheduled for November the 1st, but it has been moved. WWE, because, they're WWE, managed to move the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view back 1 week. Excuse me. From November the 1st to October the 25th, which is going to make that weekend a very busy pay-per-view weekend for the wrestling community, as October the 24th is the day of Bound for Glory, Impact Wrestling's pay-per-view, their biggest pay-per-view of the year. And we're going to have another double weekend of pay-per-views at the end of October, which means right into early November, you're going to get, or close to the beginning of November, actually, you're going to get double coverage on both of those shows at the end of October. So Hell in a Cell moved back from November the 1st to October the 25th. I want to say, speaking of Impact, and I was watching Impact this week because I really lost interest with NXT, or at least I didn't really care about NXT this week, because, you know, with what they did at the end of the Iron Man match, and like, oh, you got to join us next week. So I'm like, okay, I'm definitely watching Impact, but I just want to know what they're going to start with NXT. The first thing they do is the NXT title match, Adam Cole and Finn Balor, and that surprised me. Did it disappoint me? For a little bit it did, but then people were talking to me, and they actually convinced me that this was actually okay. And I guess the reason that I was disappointed, I guess would be the right word, not upset, but more disappointed, was that you had the Iron Man match the previous week, which was a good Iron Man match. I thought it was. And, you know, they teased the whole week of, oh, we're going to be, you know, we're going to have the match, and we're going to crown, you know, we're going to crown a new NXT champion. So I'm thinking, okay, because there was a stacked card. You also had a steel cage match with Rhea Ripley and Mercedes Martinez. I thought for sure that the title match would have been the main event on that episode. I and nothing against Rhea Ripley or Mercedes Martinez. I just thought, you got a match where you're going to fill the vacancy. You're going to have a brand new champion crown. Why not be the main event? And then, as I kept watching, and more people talked to me, I was like, you know, it kind of makes sense. I mean, nothing against the women's division. I think Rhea Ripley and Mercedes Martinez are tremendous athletes. And they've earned the right, you know, through hard work to, you know, be the featured match on the weekly TV show. I just thought, you know, and again, maybe this is a bit of that the old school thought of, well, you have a vacancy, why not make that the main event of the week's show? Why not do that? And they didn't, and they went that route, and I was proven wrong, and I think they did a good job on not doing that. So, you know, kudos to NXT for what they did. I thought for sure that the title match should have been the main event, but they proved me wrong, and I'm glad they did prove me wrong. So, very good job there by WWE, or NXT in particular. And Impact was really good this week. I really liked that episode. The tag team match with the Motor City Machine Guns and the Rascals was really good. It was a really good tag team championship match. And, you know, you're starting in a way to plant seeds for Bound for Glory. I know it's a month and a half away. Eric Young is the champion. I'm starting to believe he's going to go to Bound for Glory as the world champion. I really think he's going to enter that event with the world title. Who he faces at that pay-per-view is still a mystery because they're playing the Eddie Edwards injury. Rich Swann came back at the end of the show this week. And I am very interested to see what they do there. Plus, you've got Rosemary and Johnny Bravo getting married, which could be a very interesting and fun wedding there to watch. The Knockouts division is going really good. You got a good tag match set up next week with Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber Lee against Kylie Ray and Susie. That should be a fun tag match. Plus, you got an 8-man tag team match as well. I'm telling you, folks, Impact is flying right under the radar right now. You know, to them, the ratings don't matter anymore. They really don't. It's just give us a good product, you know, and as of late, they've been doing really good with the product. I've really enjoyed it. The only part I probably will skip this week is when Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes have their talk show segment this coming week. I'll probably skip that, but other than that, they've been doing really good. So Impact's been something you should really keep an eye on to watch. So please, if you haven't checked it out, or if you're leaning on the fence to give them another chance, now's a good time to give them another chance. I want to talk about one more thing, and then I'm going to get into the All Out review. And I want to talk about the ending of Raw this past Monday night. Murphy and Dominic Mysterio. Again, Dominic Mysterio is really talented. He's showing his stuff. He's getting better and better week in and week out. But the ending of that show was like the funniest, saddest ending I think I've ever seen to a Raw ever. And I understand the point that they were going for. Like, Ray and Dominic have the kendo sticks. They're beating up Murphy. Murphy's tied up into the ropes. And then Dominic's sister comes in. And then Ray's wife comes in. And she's like, no, I don't want to hit him. I don't want to hit him. And then Ray's like, look at what he did to my eye. And then she gives him like a couple shots. And then Dominic wins the match. And then just the way that the Mysterio family beat down on Murphy with the kendo stick was like the funniest, saddest thing I've ever seen to end a Monday Night Raw. It was like, they just kept hitting him over and over again. But it looked like the weakest shots I've ever seen. It was like, it was just, oh my gosh. It was a funny, sad ending to that episode of Raw. Like, I don't know if they were able to get an ounce of muscle on those shots. That's basically what it sounded like. It was funny, sad. It was sappy. How about that? Or had. Alright. Well, let's talk about All Out, the pay-per-view event that took place last Saturday. And there was a lot of controversy coming out of this pay-per-view. Some for obvious reasons, some for reasons you did not know. So what I'm going to do, if you're listening for the first time, welcome, is I'm going to go through each match. I'll give you my rating, and then I'll also give you Dave Meltzer's rating and CBS Sports' ratings. ESPN, again, deciding not to rate any show. I like I said, I think they've given up. Fro and I have just really bashed them on their ratings. So we'll have to see if they ever decide to do it again. Alright, so we had some pre-show matches. The first pre-show match was Serpentico against Joey Janela. Now, I'm going to be straight honest. I've never seen Serpentico wrestle. I've always seen him in the crowds for Dynamite. So it was interesting to see what he would do. This was a fun opening match, fun pre-show match. Both looked good in the ring. Luther tried to get involved towards the end, and Janela and Sonny Kiss double-teamed Luther, and Janela hit an elbow drop from the top rope to get the 3 count and the victory. It was a fun little pre-show match. I can't really complain about it. I thought it was good. I gave it a C-. I'm really not punishing the match. It was just, okay, it was a good pre-show match. Meltzer gave this 2 stars. CBS Sports gave it a C-. Okay, so we're all on the same boat, sort of. The other pre-show match was Private Party against Alex Reynolds and John Silver, members of the Dark Order, number 3 and number 4. Again, this was a good tag match. I think Serpentico and Janela was a little bit better than this match, but I thought this match was still a good, entertaining tag match, told a story, made me believe in Reynolds and Silver being, a competitive tag team. I'm not saying they're going to be, right now going for the tag team titles, but down the road, they get better matches. I could see them being in the title picture. Private Party's just been a very good tag team, a fun team to watch. Private Party got the win with the gin and juice. I gave this a C-. Again, I thought the opening pre-show match was a little bit better, but this one wasn't a bad match either. So, Meltzer gave this 2 3/4 stars. CBS Sports gave it a C. Now we go to the main show, and we start off with a match that was originally supposed to be in the buy-in, but ended up making it to the pay-per-view, which was Britt Baker and Big Swole in the first ever tooth and nail match. So this, in a way, it wasn't a cinematic match. It was taped, but it wasn't a cinematic match. So the match is in a dentist's office. Big Swole comes in. Rebel is there. Reba, whatever you want to call her. Baker and Swole, they fight for a little bit. And Reba has this funny line because she grabs the water hose and she screams to Big Swole, "Say hi to Mr. Washy!" Or, it was Mr. Rincey! So, they used that. They were actually using some of the dentist's tools there. They managed to fight outside of the dentist's office. Reba gets sent into the dumpster. Baker and Swole fight back into the office. They go into a room, and Britt Baker grabs a drill. Now, not a dentist's drill, but a drill, like something you'd use to, build stuff. She tried to put it into Big Swole, but it went right through the seat, and they kept fighting, and Britt Baker asked Reba to get her something, and she ends up grabbing the Novocaine shot that you'd give people, whenever you're working on the teeth, and she tries to put it into Big Swole. Swole reverses it, sticks it into Baker's leg, so it numbs Baker's leg. Then, she gets hit, and then Big Swole uses the funny gas, the gas that you put people to sleep in, and Britt Baker passes out. Big Swole gets the win in this match. I thought it was a good short match. It was, it was entertaining. I mean, you're not going to get a 5-star match, but I thought it was good enough to watch. I gave it a B. I thought it was an entertaining, fun little way to start the pay-per-view, to be honest. Meltzer did not rate this match, and CBS Sports gave this a C-. Now, this is where the controversies start to come in, because I did not hear about this until a few days ago, because Britt Baker was not medically cleared for action. So I'm not really sure how they got away with doing this match, but they did. I mean, Britt Baker was not medically cleared, although I'll tell you, Britt Baker looked good. She didn't look like she was, suffering from a knee injury, I'll say that much. So, but it is what it is. Next match is the tag match between the Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks. To give you guys a fresh reminder, the way we got to this match, there was an 8-man tag match where the winning team would face each other at the neck, or at this pay-per-view, which The Young Bucks and Jurassic Express won. So they got a tag match on this show. This was a fun match. It was an enjoyable match. The Young Bucks being like this dark version was kind of cool to see on pay-per-view. Now I'm convinced they can be, if you give them an angle and a character, I'm convinced they can be just about any gimmick you give them in this kind of a situation. During the match, Marco Stunt gets involved a bit, and he eventually gets met with a super kick, and he's taken care of. Luchasaurus looks great in this match. He really does. Jungle Boy looked good. They're really into Jungle Boy. They really are. They're really pushing him. And this was a fun tag match. They did everything they could to beat Jungle Boy. They just couldn't do it. And then at the end, the Young Bucks hit the BTE trigger to get the win. A very enjoyable tag match. I gave this a B. Meltzer gave it 4.25 stars, and CBS Sports gave it a B. Okay, now we go to the Casino Battle Royale. Of course, we started with 5 men, and then in 3-minute intervals, the next group would come, and then there'd be that one person left, the one that drew the Joker. They would come out last. So let's just go through real quick the order of entries, because I'm not going to really get all the eliminations. Your first group was Trent, Christopher Daniels, Jake Hager, The Blade, and Rey Fenix. That was your first group of 5. Then the second group of 5 was Frankie Kazarian, Will Hobbs, Chuck Taylor, Santana, and Ortiz. The third group was Penta El Zero M, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Billy Gunn, and Darby Allin. The fourth and final group was Shawn Spears, Eddie Kingston, The Butcher, Sonny Kiss, and Lance Archer. So I'm watching this with, with my friends, Steve, Jimboy Star, Grass Dragon, and we're trying to think who's the last guy, because we had no idea. So we get the countdown, and it pops to 0. We get the entrance, and it's Matt Sydal. Okay, so he's the last guy. So Sydal comes. He hits Will Hobbs, who does a tremendous job, by the way, in this match. I think Will Hobbs won a fan over in Jimboy Star last Saturday night. So he kicks Hobbs. Sydal attempts the shooting star press. God bless him. He slips on the top rope. Thankfully, he didn't break his neck, because that could have ended tremendously. And I'll be honest, at first, we kind of laughed at it. It was a botch. But the more you think about it, it's like, damn, it's a good thing he didn't break anything. I think what happened, and this is just my opinion, I really don't know if anything was officially said. I think there was perspiration. I think there was sweat on the ropes, and that's what caused it to happen, because they were saying during the show, oh, it's very humid out there. I mean, they were sweating a lot. So I could see that happening. Now, during the match, if you didn't see this was hilarious. For no reason at all, fireworks start going off in the background outside of Daly's place. For no reason. And my only thought was, oh, it's a minor league baseball game. They have firework night every so often. But there's been no minor league baseball this year. So I don't know if it was like the Jacksonville Jaguars were testing the fireworks out or what. But we just had these fireworks going off for no reason at all. It was hilarious. Then we had another spot. Darby Allin eliminates Ricky Starks from the match. Allin gets sent through the ropes. He gets beat up by Brian Cage and Starks. Starks then pulls out a body bag. He puts the body bag into the ring. Cage opens the body bag. In that is a smaller bag. So he opens a smaller bag and dumps thumbtacks into the body bag. So they grab Allin, they put him in the body bag of thumbtacks, close it up, they throw him onto the stage, because apparently one of the rules is you could be eliminated by going over the top and onto the stage. So Darby Allin is done. The final four end up being Eddie Kingston, The Butcher, Matt Sydal, and Lance Archer. So Butcher and Sydal fight, and Sydal manages to get the Butcher eliminated. So we're down to 3. Kingston and Archer are fighting. Sydal's back involved. Sydal gets eliminated. So we're down to Kingston and Archer. So they get to the apron. Kingston is sitting on the corner. Archer is fighting him. So Butcher is still there. Blade comes out. Jake Roberts has been out there the whole time. So then Roberts grabs his bag, and it's like, well, the snake's in there. And Kingston's afraid of it, and, he's fighting off two things at the same time. And Archer eventually grabs Kingston, throws him to Butcher and Blade, and Archer wins the Casino Battle Royale. I think the right guy went over in that. This was a fun little match. I gave it a B-. Meltzer gave this 2.5 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B. Now, we're going to go to controversy number 2, which is Sammy Guevara against Matt Hardy in a Broken Rules match. So, basically, this is a last man standing match. The stipulation to this match is if Matt Hardy loses this match, he leaves AEW. So, Hardy and Guevara, they start at the entranceway towards the football field for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Guevara's on a golf cart chasing Hardy. They fight for a little bit. Then we go to this spot where they get on the scissor lift. Hardy and Guevara are there. They fight. Guevara hits a spear on Hardy, goes through the table. As they hit and go through the table, Matt Hardy's head bounces off the concrete. And the referee, Aubrey Edwards, and I said this in the Patreon review, which you guys can check out, patreon.com/thatwrestlingshow. I do not blame Aubrey Edwards on this, because Aubrey did the right thing, not only as a referee and as a human being, but also as a professional. She put the X sign up, and she was not going to let this match go on. Sammy didn't know what was going on at the time. So the doctor comes out, Dr. Sampson, they check, and the bell rings. So it's like, okay, is this... I mean, if you saw the way Matt's head bounced, it looked nasty. It was nasty looking. So, at first, this match is over. It is done for. Then, the match continues. The doctor said, Matt says he's okay. He looks okay. We're going to continue the match. But if you look into Matt's eyes, and I mean look at the footage in his eyes, he is not there at all. He's not there. So, now they go right to the ending, the original ending of the match. They climb onto a light grid. Sammy falls off. goes through something. He gets counted out. Matt Hardy wins the match. Obviously, Rebby Hardy was pissed. And for once, I actually agree with her to a certain extent. As a wife, she has every right to be concerned. I totally understand that. I would have been scared too if I was her. Because that's, the father of your kids. The problem that I have with the way... Okay, I want to say this in a way to where I'm not going to make you all mad, the listeners. I just want you to hear what I'm coming from. Yes, she has every right to post her, worries and complaints. That match should not have gone on. I definitely agree with that. But when you put text messages up on your Twitter saying the stuff to your husband before the match, and then you curse him out in a text, that's where I have my problem. That's why I can't ever get behind any sympathy to Rebby Hardy. Can never get behind her. She has every right to be mad, but don't post your personal crap on Twitter to where millions of people around the world are going to see and read it. Come on. Be smart. I was really contemplating if I should rate the match or not. I did have a grade written down, but I'm going to choose not to grade this match because, my God, Matt Hardy had a freaking concussion, and that match should have never continued. It really shouldn't have. So I'm going to plead the fifth on this, and I'm not going to give the match the grade that I had written down. I'm just not going to do that. Meltzer did not give this match a grade, but CBS Sports did, and they gave it a D-. Yep, a D-. Now, I will say this. The AEW's been around for a year, probably a year and a half, if you think about it. That's the worst thing that they've done in AEW, to be completely honest. That is a growing experience. I know people aren't going to believe me when I say it, but it's true. It's a growing experience. They're going to learn from their mistakes. They're going to get better about it. And hopefully we never have a situation like that again where it comes down to, we're going to continue the match. I think they definitely made a wrong call on the match or on continuing the match. That match should have been stopped. You can do that match another time, another place. I understand it's pay-per-view. Matt Hardy's a veteran. He wanted to continue, but I'd have put my foot down. I'd have been like, no, it's not worth it. We can do this another day. Because I'd rather have him be healthy to live another day instead of going back out and possibly risking worse. Alright, so then we had the AEW women's title match. Thunder Rosa challenging Hikarushita. This was a fun match to watch. Shida is really one of the best women's wrestlers out there today. Thunder Rosa is really getting right up there. She's climbing better and better performance after performance. Really good wrestling match. They did go on the outside for a little bit, but they kept it in the ring, and Thunder Rosa was a very believable challenger. I really could have believed in her winning the title. It went back and forth. Shida won with the Shining Wizard combo to get the 3 count in the victory. I would like to see these two wrestle again in the very near future. But Shida won the day. I gave it a B. Meltzer gave it 3.5 stars, and CBS Sports gave it a B. Now, before we get to this next match, I want to talk about this segment. Because normally, the only time I'll ever discuss a segment is if it's an interesting segment. My God, this was such an interesting segment. This was really good all the way around. So Alex Marvez is with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. They have an announcement to make. The announcement is that they're getting married. They are getting engaged. They're engaged to be married. Which, if you follow them on Instagram or Twitter, you probably kind of knew for a while. But still, we got a story here. So, Sabian said that this wedding is going to be all out dynamite. So he announces that on the next episode of Dynamite, he is going to announce his best man. And it's not just a best man, it's the best man. So it's like, okay, I like this. This could be interesting. And I'll talk about it after the review. Then, with one of the funniest jabs I've ever seen in my life, AEW does the best 1-2 punch I've ever seen, making fun of WWE. So Sabian says at the end of this segment, if you like what you see, follow me on Twitch. So Penelope Ford has a sign with his Twitch handle address, and then at the end it pops up, this message has been approved by All Elite Wrestling, which was hilarious. Oh my God, it was so great. Because one of the stories at the end of end of last week, because this happened after last week's show aired, and it really went into much of this week, was that WWE had sent a memo, an email to everyone, especially the talent, saying that we don't want you on third-party places anymore. Twitch, Cameo, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, because some of them are making money off of this. And it's like, you have 30 days to do it. You gotta be off by October 2nd. If you don't do it, you're going to be severely punished. We could fine you, we could suspend you, or we could terminate your contract. It's a lot of controversy, and I want to talk about that real quick. I think, because Jim and I, we had this conversation, and I could see both sides, but I don't get why WWE is doing this. Something like Cameo, I understand. Because really, the guys don't really need that kind of money. I mean, Alexa Bliss got paid $400 to basically break a guy's heart, say, no, as much as I like, as I think you're cute, I'm not going to go on a date with you, I got a boyfriend. But they really don't need that kind of money. The legends might, but not the current wrestlers. But then you have people on YouTube and Twitch, like Xavier Woods, Paige, AJ Styles, who are, big, either they use social media for like gaming or dancing or whatever, and that's where their extra revenue comes in. So, you could go either way with the argument, and I think each side would have a right case, but I'm not really sure if WWE's handling this the right way. I really don't. Plus, this is coming from Vince McMahon. Vince is like almost mid-70s at this point. So, okay, now we have the 8-man tag team match, the Dark Order, Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, facing Dustin Rhodes, QT Marshall, Scorpio Sky, Matt Cardona. We're eventually going to get into controversy number 3 in a moment. Match starts off as a fight, which it should. Then you get a good back and forth for a while, and Brody Lee is really into Colt Cabana, like he's really, being like, yeah, you can do this, you can be a member, Like, you could see it in their eyes. And it's just good back and forth action. Then we get to this controversy. Anna Jay comes into the ring. And she's going to... I want to say she's going to attack Cardona. Brandy comes in. Gives her a kick. They start fighting. Then Jim Ross makes this comment about Anna Jay, like, oh, I hope she didn't have wardrobe malfunction. You know, let me pull up the exact quote. Because, you know, like, the what he said really got people ticked off. It really had people pissed off. So the quote that he made was, and I'll use my JR impression. Did Anna Jay have a wardrobe malfunction? Or is that wishful thinking in my book? That's the quote. Did Anna Jay have a wardrobe malfunction? Or is that wishful thinking in my book? People were outraged about that one comment. And I don't get why. Because I heard the comment. I heard the comment when he said it. And my only thought was, wait, did she have a wardrobe malfunction? It was like for a split second. It was a split second thought. I was never mad about it. You know, I just went right to the rest of the match. And that was my thought, was, oh, JR said something and, you know, just go on to the rest of the match. But then you have people who are so like, oh my God, it's the most terrible thing JR has ever said in his life. No. Grow up. Grow up. He didn't mean, you know, like, he asked the question and then he said, I hope that she didn't. Just grow up, people. My God. Can we not have a sense of humor anymore in wrestling? I mean, Bob Cook, who, you know, wrestled for many, many years, WWF, WCW, had a great post on Facebook. And I actually want to read this. Because he posted this earlier in the week, and I was like, yeah, you go. What he said was absolutely right. So, Bob Cook, who's been a veteran of wrestling, he no longer wrestles, but he's been, you know, he knows the game. He's been in it forever. He said about that controversy, and I'm real close to it. I know I am. God, he really likes Evel Knievel a lot. So, what he said, here we go. This is his quote. I swear I hate wrestling fans today. Get a freaking life and stop pretending to be offended by every goddamn thing you see or hear, you pathetic excuses for human beings. No, seriously, you suck. And you know what? I absolutely agree with him. Because I posted, you know, I left a post on his thing, and I just said, you know, I honestly thought for like a small second, like, did she have one? And then you just move on. You just move on. And he agreed with my quote. So, me and Bob Cook are best friends. All right, so the end of the match, Brody Lee and Dustin Rhodes are in the ring. Brody Lee knocks Dustin down. He tags in Cabana. Cabana's got the win. He has the win. He's telling him, pin him, You've got it. Cabana decides to go for a moonsault. Misses the moonsault. Dustin gets him up in a schoolboy. 1, 2, 3. Rhodes, Marshall, Sky, and Cardona win the 8-man tag match. Very good ending. Really liked it. After the match, Brody Lee is upset. And he goes over to Cabana and, he's upset at him. And Cabana's like, look, that was my fault. I'll take the loss. I'll take the blame. And, he's just upset. And, he just leaves him in the ring. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I gave the match a B-. Meltzer gave this 3.5 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B. Now we go to the AEW Tag Team title match. Kenny Omega, Adam Page defending the belts against the challenging team FTR. What an amazing tag team match this was. This was such a good tag team match, and it told a really good story. There was good wrestling involved. You had some fake outs here and there. Everybody did their part. I really enjoyed this match. Some near falls, good storytelling. And then the end of the match, Adam Page accidentally hits the buckshot lariat on Omega. It was a complete accident. FTR hits a spike pile driver, but Page manages to kick out. Then they go back to the top rope to hit a spike pile driver from the top rope. 1, 2, 3, FTR wins the AEW Tag Team title. I mean, it was very predictable. They were going to win, but it was such a great story this match told. It was very well done. This or the main event was the best match of the pay-per-view, and I'll give you guys my answer in a little bit. After the match is where it gets even better, because Omega is very upset, and he has a small table, and it looks like he's going to hit Page with it, but he puts it down. He doesn't do it. Page gets up, tries to go over to Omega, tries to give him a hug. Omega moves and just leaves Page in the middle of the ring. Omega leaves the ring. We're following him in the back. The Young Bucks are there. They're having a conversation. Omega's leaving the building at this point. And he's like, I'm done. I'm sick of this. I'm done. Let's start over again. I'm going to clean things up. And Omega offers the Young Bucks to join him in this car to go. And the Bucks don't do it. And Omega just leaves in the car. And it's going to be very interesting to see where they go from there. The match, I gave it an A. Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B+. Next match is the Mimosa Mayhem match. Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy. This was a fun little match. Nothing to go crazy over, but it was a fun little match. Good back and forth. They each tried to put the other in the pool of Mimosa. Couldn't quite do it. It had some near falls, some submissions. You actually had wrestling in this match. But the end, Orange Cassidy hits some orange punch. I actually like that name, the Orange Punch. It sounds better for him than the Superman Punch. So he hits a couple of orange punches, and Jericho falls into the tub of Mimosa, and Orange Cassidy wins the match. He wins the Mimosa Mayhem match. And that pretty much ends the rivalry there. Orange Cassidy wins. I gave it a B. Meltzer gave it 3.5 stars, and CBS Sports gave it a C+. And then we go to the main event. WWE Championship match. MJF challenging Jon Moxley. God, this was another great match. Oh my God. The 2 title matches at the end were just great matches. So the whole story to this is real simple. Moxley can't use the paradigm shift. If he does, he's disqualified, loses the title. Early on, Moxley goes for the paradigm shift, but he remembers right away. He remembered very quickly. So he has to wrestle a completely different match. Both men go back and forth for a bit. Then they go to the outside. MJF is sent into the post. And when we see him after he is, sent into the post, he is busted wide open. I mean, he was gushing out blood. And it makes this actually a little bit better of a story. I know we've had this discussion in the past here, Fro and I have, on our thoughts of bleeding and blading. Obviously, this was a blade job. Fro's not really a big fan of it. The only time I'm a fan of it is when you're in a situation that needs it, and this is actually a situation that needs it. So Moxley keeps trying for the paradigm shift, but he remembers, and he's trying to remember, and even the referee, Bryce Remsburg, reminds him, if you do this, you're going to lose. So Moxley comes back, he takes advantage for a bit, he's doing a lot of good stuff, and then we get back and forth, and then we get to the ending. Wardlow gets up on the apron. He distracts Bryce. So Wardlow grabs the diamond ring, which MJF's had for almost a year now. And it's like he's thrown this 1,000 times, and it's worked every single time. The one time he doesn't do it is at this time. And he overthrows it. Moxley grabs the ring, doesn't really do anything with it. Moxley hits the paradigm shift behind the referee's back. 1, 2, 3. Jon Moxley retains the AEW World title. Like I said, I wasn't upset with whoever won the match. This ended up being a very good match. Maybe Moxley's best title defense as champion. MJF looked like $1 million in this match. I really enjoyed it. I gave the match an A as a whole. Meltzer gave this 4.5 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B+. Now, the last controversy that I want to bring up comes from former WWE referee Jimmy Korderas, who has since retired. He does have a podcast. And he talked about how he thought the referee for the match overshadowed the 2 competitors in the main event. I personally have always thought Jimmy Korderas was a very good guy, very smart guy, and he is. Bryce Remsburg's been in the business for almost 20 years. Bryce Remsburg, I think, is one of the best referees in all of professional wrestling. I've interviewed him. I've met the guy. He's a terrific man, a great human being, and he's one of the best referees out there in wrestling today. Do I think he overshadowed the main event of this pay-per-view? No. I never thought that 1 minute. I thought he did his job as a referee, and he referees the way he referees. He was taught, he's been in this business for so long. I had no problem at all with the way Bryce reffed that match. I don't think he stole the limelight from either guy, to be honest. And I thought he did a good job refereeing this match. I really did. So, unless I missed something from Jimmy Korderas' point of view, I really don't know what the problem is. Okay, so as far as the pay-per-view goes as a whole, I enjoyed it for the most part. Obviously, my main complaint was the continuation of the Guevara-Hardy match. I'm going to give this a B. I thought it was a good pay-per-view. Not the best pay-per-view of the year. I think Revelation was their best pay-per-view of the year. So I'm going to give this a B. Our Facebook group, for the most part, gave it a B. One person gave it an A. One person gave it an F. And there has been, I've seen some talk. Some people didn't like the pay-per-view. I understand, but I thought this was a good show. Favorite match from this event? I gotta go to tag title match. It's very close, though, between that and the world title match. But I think the tag title match was really the best match of the pay-per-view. Our Facebook poll thinks that the tag title match and the women's title match was the best match of the pay-per-view. And then one vote for Guevara and Hardy. I'm not really sure if that should have gotten a vote, but again, that's that person's opinion. So, real quick, to talk about Dynamite this week. Another good week of Dynamite. And I thought the best man segment was the best part of the entire week of wrestling. That was pulled off so well. The first tease being Puff, an independent wrestler. Then the second tease being Brian Pillman Jr., which I thought was really good. And then the actual reveal being Miro, a.k.a. Rusev, was done so well. And then he cuts a terrific promo about, grabbing the brass ring. And then he's like, you could take that brass ring and shove it up your ass. Which kind of reminded me of when X-Pac came back to WWF the night after WrestleMania 14. And he sticks it to Hulk Hogan. And he's like, Hulk Hogan, you suck, pal. And it's like, oh, man, that, it got personal. It was really well done. Lance Archer and Jon Moxley for the AEW World title. That has been announced for the anniversary show in October. I want to say October 14th is the date for that one. So that's going to be a very fun main event there. Brody Lee and Dustin Rhodes had another good match. My gosh, Dustin Rhodes could just go and wrestle for like another 20 years and he'd still have a good match. Just very good episode all around. Really enjoyed it. Just a fun show all the way around this week. And I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I thought it was a fun show this week. Again, on my own. Sort of a little weird, to be honest. But, life hands you lemons. Got to make lemonade. So, let's get into the plugs, and I'll tell you guys what I've got in store for next week. If you guys have any questions or comments, send an email, wrestlingman@thewrestlingshow.com. Follow the show on Twitter @WrestlingShow11. Follow us on Instagram. It is That Wrestling Show. Join our Facebook group. That Wrestling Show fan group is all that you got to type, and you do that, join, and we'll let you in a group unless you're one of those bots and saying that you're somebody when, in fact, you're not. Visit our store, teespring.com/that wrestling show podcast, and check out our Patreon page. Join us, patreon.com/that wrestling show. We have a new patron. Just want to send a shout out to Dave Rollins, who joined us earlier this week. He has signed up, so why don't you guys sign up? If you like what you hear, you're going to get extra content and non-wrestling related stuff as well. Patreon.com/that wrestling show. All right, now to plug not only some friends of ours, but podcasts you should check out. Starting with our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast with Joe Murata and Michael Quinn. They take you through the world of retro wrestling like no one else does. They start season 20 this week, and this is a season of the fans, as we, the fans, get to ask them a question and get their thoughts on it. The question: what would have happened if Ric Flair went to the WWF in 1988? That's a very good question. Plus, week 1 of the Royal Rankings of Best Factions, and they review an episode of Monday Night Raw from May 17th, 1993. And also up right now on their Patreon page is their review of the 1991 Royal Rumble. Check it out, our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast. Now, if you like your podcast hosted by one individual, check out Greetings from Allentown with your host PW Peter Winston. He watches one episode of wrestling each week in his own unique way. This week, it's a little bit different because it's not a regular episode of Greetings from Allentown, but it is GFA Live with Peter and his friend Keithy as they watch Best of the WWF Volume 19. Check that out, Greetings from Allentown. Also check out Juice Pro Wrestling as this week they give their thoughts on the All Out event, plus more wrestling news. That is Juice Pro Wrestling. Now, if you're looking for podcasts that are non-wrestling related, check out the Best Pick Movie Podcast with John, Tom, and Jess. They watch each and every Academy Award-winning Best Picture winner in no particular order. This week, they discuss the Best Picture winner of 1928, the very first Academy Award winner, Wings. Plus, you will get the backstory on how the Academy Awards were basically made. A very interesting story. Check out the Best Pick Movie Podcast. Now, if we have some knuckleheads out there, check out the Three Stooges Throwback Podcast with Gabe Russo. Gabe Russo watches in order each and every Three Stooges short. This week, he watches Disorder in the Court. That is on the Three Stooges Throwback Podcast. Also, check out Unspooled with Paul and Amy, as this season, they're going to watch 100 movies, and their plan, ultimately, is to have all 100 movies go into outer space, so those aliens that may or may not exist can see our movies. This week, they discuss Rebel Without a Cause, the movie with James Dean and Natalie Wood from 1955. That would be a movie I would recommend shooting into outer space. That is, this week on Unspooled with Paul and Amy. Also, check out Last Stop Penn Station with Kerry Silken as he takes you through his life and gives you amazing stories. This week, Kerry pays tribute to a couple of late friends, discusses the Ring of Honor Fantasy Draft, and much, much more. That is Last Stop Penn Station. Also, check out The Castle Vault, a chronological deep dive of Disney animated films powered by Disney+. Two Disney fans watch each and every Disney animated movie in order that is currently on Disney+. This week, they discuss Atlantis, The Lost Empire. I've actually never seen that movie, so I really don't know what I would be expecting once I get to that movie. Also, this Sunday, got pushed back a week, but it is going to be up this Sunday. It is our finale of the summer series, myself and Jim Boy Star. We are joined by Rowdy Ross as we review WWF Invasion 2001. And I think now is a good time to make this announcement. Coliseum Corner has its own iTunes channel. So all you got to do, if you're listening to iTunes, go to the iTunes Store or Apple Podcasts, whatever it's. I think it's Apple Podcasts now. Go to Store and type in Coliseum Corner. I am putting up all the old episodes on that channel, and eventually all the episodes will be there, which will lead to a brand new episode sometime in the very near future. I'm hoping it's going to be real soon that new episode gets put up. Okay, next week on the show, going to have wrestling news. I'm hoping that my copy of Pro Wrestling Illustrated comes in within this week, so we could do the annual PWI 500 with Fro if he is here. And that's really all I got for this week, because we don't have a pay-per-view. We actually don't have a pay-per-view for the next few weeks, which is good. So it gives us a little bit of a rest. Thank you guys for tuning in to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. Come back next week, And as always, wrestle on.